with the current impact of the coronavirus across the globe, it has become imperative for Nigerians to get ready to live with some of the changes that the pandemic will bring. There are going to be changes in behavioral patterns in every aspect of life, especially economically and more. There is also the need to highlight the awareness of national core values to encourage behaviors that will help Nigerians cope better with COVID-19 and its impact on the society. Executive Director, Foundation for Value Transformation, Segun Kokrik, joins me now via Skype. Segun, good morning. It's good to have you join me right now.
Good morning, Mike.
Now, basically, thank you very much. For you, Segun, what do you see as the most visible or the most obvious impact of COVID-19?
Well, let me first say that it's a very sad time in human experience. We want to convey our condolence from ABT to all those who have suffered loss of their relations during this time. On the flip side, the impact of the pandemic across all sorts of society should make us reflect and determine to press the reset button to build a stronger society and learn lessons from COVID-19. It must not be wasted.
All right, now government has done everything they can to talk to Nigerians on what to do, how to do, especially when you talk about the issue of hygiene, constant washing of hands, the use of face masks, and the issue of social distancing. How much of this do you think is going to be part of everyday life in Nigeria going forward?
Pandemics have happened in the world before. We had the Spanish one, we have the various ones over the century. And yes, things got bad. We had churches being closed. We had physical meeting being stopped, no social gathering. But after a while, the pandemic stopped and the life went back to normal again, but in a new way. So the same way, there are some lessons we learned from the current pandemic, and which will help us to be more effective as we return to the new normal. For example, you have social distancing. Churches are being closed, markets are being closed. You have no physical meetings of friends, of boards and all that. And that's created a new wave of online church programs, online shopping, online meetings, which has made things a bit more effective. For example, I'm part of a board of a firm, and prior to now, sometimes we struggle to form a quorum for the board meetings because people are traveling all over the place. But we had a meeting last week, and people were still outside the country or somewhere in Abuja, but we were able to hold an online meeting with everybody in attendance. And now the new normal will be that we'll be going to be having online meetings for our board meetings. So we learned something from that. We can transit into the new era, post-COVID-19. So essentially we say, yes, there are social impacts, but then we've got to use our values to create new things, like creativity in this case, in terms of online meetings, and then we now goes into the new normal. We take some of those things to the new normal to make us more effective.
All right. Now, for the impacts of visibility of what we see about COVID-19, there are lots of things we see government is doing in the cities, like in Lagos and in Kano, in Abuja, or maybe even River State, as the case may be. But away from those states, if you go to other states where they may not necessarily be as metropolitan as Lagos, for instance, you go to Benue State, for instance, or maybe Ebonyi State, where they have Taraba State, where you have very mass rural areas. It seems like life as usual. Life is just normal, the way it has always been. Do you think this is just for the cities and not for the hinterlands?
Well, obviously, some areas have not been affected because the pandemic started from the various, that's the urban areas. And the infection was carried from in Nigeria's case, it came from abroad, then from there into urban area. And in some cases in the rural areas, they didn't have that pandemic effect there. So obviously, their own case will be different, and their reactions is like, there's nothing like COVID-19, it's just a lie. So they may not react as we are reacting in the urban areas, obviously.
All right. So in this case now, what should be the biggest lesson for a lot of people? Because even after several months of COVID-19 being here, after several months of lockdowns, after several months or weeks of curfews, we still have people who don't believe that there is COVID-19, like you mentioned. What more can be done at this point to enlighten people, especially with hygiene, especially with issues of social distancing and the others?
Well, the government has done quite a bit to really educate people. But I think more than that, we should start educating our society to move away from just thinking about myself. That's ego thinking to eco thinking. That is, we should not be just thinking, our people should be thinking not just about myself, but how do I affect others? For example, you find that yes, people feel that they're not, it doesn't matter to them because they feel they're not affected directly. But then they should be, we should be educating our people to be thinking more about what happens to the whole society. One of the lessons we can learn from this pandemic, like I said, is to move from ego thinking to eco thinking. If you take the poor health system we've got on our hands right now, this pandemic revealed that the prior notion that the rich can just go off when they are ill to Dubai or to UK to get their health checkup done, we couldn't do that this time around. And that brings to the importance of having good health system for everyone, not just for me, that I can, insurance for me to go abroad and take out my health. One of my friends in Dubai, in Kano, said that most of the people who died in Kano. Some of the rich people who are dying in Kano, they are dying because they cannot fly anymore for their checkups in Saudi, in Egypt. They couldn't get drugs, they couldn't fly out, so a lot of them are dying because of that. And that tells us that we should really arrange health for us and not just for a few. The health standard we should have should be such that it can be applied to everybody. Yeah. Anybody can get good health services.
And it should be comprehensive enough for everyone. We have to thank you so much, Segun Kokrik, for your time on the program. Thank you very much.